Master Your Mindset Radio, episode 113.
Welcome to Master Your Mindset Radio, the show where we empower you to discover your true self before the world told you differently. Now for your host, Elizabeth Nader.
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. Today I want to revisit something that I am certain I've talked about before because I talk about it all the time, but it's something that I think is really important for all of us to keep in mind. And I recently did a teaching with an entire corporation last week, and we spent a lot of time with the employees on this specific concept. So I realized how important it is. I'm bringing it back to you. Maybe you haven't heard it before, so this may be new, or it may be a refresher. I call it the mind of man, which is really an illustration, a diagram. It's in my book, and also just a flow of how we get from our deeply held beliefs to the results we see in our life. We spend a lot of time focusing on results that we don't like, things that are happening in our lives that are upsetting to us, things that we don't like, habits that we can't seem to change, bad results we're getting, not moving forward in our career, businesses not growing, relationships not where they need to be. You name it. There are any number of results, as I call them, that we may not be happy with. Well, in order for us to change that, we have to understand how we got there. It isn't one thing. It isn't that simple. It's sort of like peeling back the onion. And so in order to illustrate how deeply held beliefs, which are so important and controlling, and when they're bad, they're called limiting beliefs, how they actually affect what we see in our life, I need you to understand the process of how we get there. And it's a 7-step process. So this is an audio podcast. You're going to have to imagine this as I talk through it, but I have this actually schematic in my book, and it's helpful to look at it. But let me talk it through. So we start with a deeply held belief, and we know that is in control 90% of the time. And that's a teaching that you'll have to go back and listen to. It's about your subconscious. It's about really your seat of power. But we know that our deeply held beliefs, sometimes we're not even aware of them, often we're not, are mostly in control. And from the deeply held belief, we then have a thought. We go into our thinking realm. We actually go into our mind. We have a thought, and from that thought, we feel an emotion. And there are only 2 emotions in the way that I lay out the mind of man: fear or faith, only 2. Now you're saying right now, there are a ton of emotions. Are you crazy? No, those are feelings, and I'll explain the difference. Emotions are really the containers for all the feelings. So all the feelings that we have, and there are thousands of words, they are all either a faith-based feeling or a fear-based feeling. Think about it. Each one of them. So you have this deeply held belief. You then have, it bubbles up into your conscious realm. You have a thought, and from that thought, you immediately have an emotion. You may not even notice it. It's either going to be faith or fear. And immediately from that emotion, you have a feeling. And that feeling is a result of that emotion. So if that feeling is scared, happy, excited, depressed, you can see which one would map to an emotion of faith or an emotion of fear. So immediately you have a feeling. What happens once you have that feeling? You say words. You say words. Words come out of your mouth. And from those words, you make choices. And from those choices, you have results. So I just laid out for you the 7-step process of the mind of man. So if I go through it quickly, you go from a deeply held belief to thinking, to emotion, to feeling, to words, to choices, to results. You can see how our deeply held beliefs end up being magnified and replicated and really illustrated in the results in our life, in the things that people can see, and the things that happen to us, in the decisions we make. But it's a 7-step process. It doesn't go from our subconscious directly to results. We have to then think about it and choose to think about it, choose an emotion, choose a feeling, choose our words, make life choices, experience results. So as I'm saying that, I hope you understand that you have control. You have choices. You can decide to interrupt this process because the one thing you have control over is your mind and how you direct it. So you can decide what you want to think upon. You can decide to change your deeply held beliefs. You can decide that you don't want to feel one way or another. You can make a choice about your words. You certainly have choices in this world that end up giving you results. Every step of the way, there's an opportunity for you to disrupt this process if it's a negative process. And what's great about this mind of man, about these 7 steps, is that it will help you interrupt negative patterns in your life. So if you're constantly feeling a certain way, you're having a feeling, a sad feeling, well, we know if we enter at that part of the mind of man, and we say, okay, we're going to talk about our feelings. We're feeling sad. We know that's not a faith-based feeling. That's a fear-based emotion. So we say we're in fear. We don't stay there long, but we focus on what is the thought we were having? What are the thoughts we're having that are making us feel sad? And what are those thoughts based in? What is the deeply held belief behind them? Is it truth or is it a lie? That's how we interrupt the process of these 7 steps, by entering at the feeling at the 4th step. But you can do it down in your words. You can look at the words you're saying and say, wow, those are not good words. Why am I saying that? Well, back up in this process. What are the feelings behind it? What is the emotion behind it? What am I thinking about? And what is the deeply held belief? So again, those 7 steps, you can interrupt this at any point if you want to change the outcome. You want to change the results in your life. If you want to change what you see in your life, you need to then change your choices. You need to back up and change your words. You need to be in control of and change your feelings. You need to be aware of which emotion you're in, fear or faith. And you need to think about what you're thinking about that's causing that, and they'd be willing to do the work to find the deeply held belief or the limiting belief that's behind that thought. Those are the steps. That is the mind of man. It is 7 closely connected things that you can slow down, interrupt, and change. They happen in a moment in our lives. Probably hundreds of times a day, if not more, maybe thousands times a day. So you're not going to interrupt every thought pattern, but you can take results that you don't like and begin to work on them based on what you can see is going wrong, what you can see is off, what you can see is limiting, what you can see is negative. It's your words, it's your choices, it's your feelings, it's your thought life. What is it? Start there and you'll start to see changes in your life, because ultimately the fruit that you bear in your life is related directly to and ultimately to the deeply held beliefs that you hold. So be careful. Be careful what you believe in. Be careful what you're thinking. Be aware of your emotions and your feelings. Be willing to guard your words. Make good choices and see better results. Have a great week, guys. Talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to Master Your Mindset Radio. Before you go, please visit elizabethnader.com to learn more about the Mindset Maven and how she is guiding high performers to map their mindset to their message so they can effectively express who they are and why their ideas should win. Looking forward to seeing you online.